This is big news, and of course, people begin to speculate. We're interested to see how the share prices of these companies react to the news. But the big question now is this a good idea for Access Bank? We know obviously that Intercontinental Bank needs to be bailed out at some point. It's a bank that's massively undercapitalized. AMCON is obviously injecting some money into it. So it's really the Access Bank shareholders that either look to benefit or lose from this deal. What are your thoughts on if this is a good idea for Access Bank?
I think it still remains to be seen. I think from the plus points, it gives Access Bank size immediately instead of trying to rely on organic growth, and also gives them more of a more reach in the retail space, which has been a weak point so far. But I think on the minor sides, Intercontinental is bigger than Access, has its own culture, is a troubled institution, and integration of such institutions have proved to be problematic in the past.
Indeed, like you mentioned, it is a huge institution that they are acquiring. Now, Access Bank already has a track record in acquisitions. We know they acquired Capital Bank and Marina Bank in 2005. Like we mentioned, these are small companies relative to Intercontinental Bank. This is a juggernaut in the banking industry of systemic importance, obviously, to the system. What are your thoughts on the execution risk here?
I think the execution risk is big. As you mentioned before, the former M&As were small institutions where the Access Bank culture could easily be put in place. When you look at a bigger institution that has a troubled history, that has probably more staff than in Access Bank, 3 times the number of branches, it's going to be very difficult to first stamp in your culture, change your system process, and integrate it with yours. I think that is going to be a difficult process. I think that is the key risk in that. And does the manager of the Access Bank have the experience and capability to drive that in a big institution? I think the only other merger in Nigerian banking that's similar to that is when STB merged with UBA, where it's a similar, smaller size competitor taking over a bigger, troubled institution.
And how has that played out in your view? Does that tell us something about how this is likely to play out? I
think if you talk to the present UBA management, they'll tell you that the cost implication of integrating were a lot higher than they estimated, because there are various issues with systems and stuff they had to sort out going forward. I think also trying to put in the culture, it takes 2, 3, 4 years to try and put in a unified culture, unified system through the whole process. I think right now you're supposed to be seeing the growth based on that from UBA, but with the projection UBA is going at the moment, we're not seeing that growth. So it could imply that it wasn't, in the long run, entirely successful.
Obviously, the big question is how much they're going to pay for this. The management of Access Bank are still silent on this point. Obviously, it's at an MOU stage right now. Nothing has been finalized, but one has to begin to speculate. Intercontinental Bank is an international bank. Looking at how it's the platform it's working on right now, one assume that under the new banking license regime, it should be going for an international banking license, which assumes 50 billion capital. Do you think that's something that might be playing out here?
I doubt it, and the reason why is because Access Bank is already an international bank. If they're going to merge, I mean, it might take 18 to 24 months, as been speculated. They're going to merge. It doesn't really make sense to have 2 international licenses. I suspect that Access Bank will put in enough money into Intercontinental so that it has enough liquidity to keep its risk-weighted assets and manage those risk-weighted assets, employing in the region of maybe 15 to 20 billion. I think they'll also promise to put in a significant amount of money as investment to upgrade and part of the integration process. But I think in terms of actually raw cash into Intercontinental, keep it going, I think it'll be lower than 50.
Let's look a bit further down the line. Obviously, this is process, like you mentioned, something that might take another 18 to 24 months to be finalized. Obviously, there are dissenting voices from shareholders on the Intercontinental Bank side, and then one begins to ask, how long is this likely going to take, given the rules and regulations for mergers in Nigeria? Can you give some insight into what you think is likely to happen?
I think it's going to be quite a long process. I mean, on the plus side, I think CBN and the other regulators are part of the process, and so they're trying to push things as quickly as possible. So getting the regulatory approvals should take a shorter time than normal, because CBN has been husbanding the whole process, so it's aware, and other regulators are aware of the whole process from the start. I think when they start going to have to go to court, there's also litigation in court already with the ex-MD of Intercontinental Bank still in court. And then when you go to those shareholders, I think you're probably looking at 3 to 4 months, possibly. And then you probably can't do anything in April because of elections. So probably from April, about 3 to 4 months at the very least.
That'll take us to July, August, September, perhaps.
Exactly. And at that same time, that's when CBN's guarantee is for interbank deposits and credit lines is leaving.
And then let's look coming back to the transaction? You just mentioned the central bank guarantee. Obviously, the markets are not normal. These are not normal times in the Nigerian banking system. And one even assumes that they might even move that guarantee, say, another 3 months if things progress slowly. The timing of this transaction, would you say this is a great time to make a move like this, given the slow growth we're seeing in loans in the sector and so forth now?
I think from Access Bank's point of view, it is. In the sense that if they want to go size, and the manager's always said they want to be one of the top 5 players and cement that position, if they want to do that, this is probably the cheapest and easiest way to do it, to take part in the rescue banks. And it also gives them time, because I think most of the investors and the public know that the bank is in a difficult time. It gives them time to try and integrate the system so that when the market starts picking up, they're in a position where they can drive forward. But I think one of the main issues is, one of the big things Access Bank is saying is that this gives them retail footprint. But no bank in Nigeria has successfully done mass retail at a profitable stage in Nigeria. And having more branches and saying you have more deposits doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be profitable in the retail space.
Well, we'll see how they can excuse. Final point on you. Where should money go given the news? Buy Access Bank shares, buy Intercontinental Bank shares, or just hold and see how things play out?
I would hold and see how things play out.